At a number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Chair. I mean, just by listening to the name, you already know there is zero goodness in this chair. So numerous physics and clairvoyants meet up year-round in Cassadaga, Florida, which is known as the state's spiritual hub to showcase their talents. Specifically, they meet up in Lake Helen Cemetery. As expected, this spiritual retreat is a hive of spiritual activity, but one place in particular is said to give you the shivers. The Devil's Chair of Cassadaga is a big brick chair, and it's so-called haunted because many locals think that if you sit in it late at night when no one is present, the devil will come and visit you. The chair is said to be the way for the devil to communicate with you, but the odd thing is that the devil actually enjoys a cold one, you know, a beer. It's said that if you leave an open beer on this chair, it will be empty in the morning. So just to be sure, make sure you don't take a little rest in the cemetery because it could be a terrifying experience.
Now at number 9, the Florida skunk ape, also known as the swamp cabbage man. The stink ape has been said to inhabit Florida, North Carolina, and Arkansas. The stories date back to the 60s and 70s, during the time of the Bigfoot mania, when the ape-like creature running on 2 legs was spotted in South Florida. The creature gets its name from its pungent odor, said to be a byproduct of living alongside alligators and other swamp inhabitants. There's actually an official skunk ape research headquarters in Okeechobee, where a researcher collects and investigates reports of swamp ape sightings.
At a number 8 spot, we have the grave of the Tallahassee Witch. The Old City Cemetery in Tallahassee, Florida is not your regular graveyard. In this cemetery lies a supposed witch. Yes, a real witch. The witch went by the name of Elizabeth Budd Graham, or Bessie, who was only 23 when she passed away in 1889. Her tombstone is the most expensive and the most noticeable. It has this nice stone wall with large granite vases, sculpted feathers, and a cross inside of a crown. The legend goes that Elizabeth bewitched a wealthy man into marrying her, and this is why her tombstone looks like this. The scary thing is that her tomb has a dark witch references chiseled all around the stones. A lot of the writing is written in unique poem-like fashion, but some witch references she made was doubly dead, which means that a witch can only be dead once and killed twice. Others who visit the tombstone report feelings of unease, and they often report strange individuals leaving items at the tomb. To this day, it's said that the fellow witches often visit the grave to leave gifts for Bessie.
Now at number 7, Spook Hill. In Lake Wales, there's a gravity hill that freaks out those traveling through by car. Stop your car in the right place on Spook Hill, put it in neutral, and watch as your vehicle rolls up the hill. On North Wales Drive, a sign says this: many years ago, an Indian village on Lake Wales was plagued by raids of a huge gator. The chief, a great warrior, killed the gator in a battle that created a small lake. The chief was buried on the north side. Pioneer mail riders first discovered their horses laboring downhill, thus naming it Spook Hill. When the road was paved, cars coasted uphill. Is this the gator seeking revenge, or is the chief still trying to protect his land?
At a number 6 spot, we have Robert the Doll. Now, I did a whole top 10 on this haunted doll, so go check it out in the other video if you haven't already. For those staying and don't know him, the story of Robert the Doll dates back to the early 1900s in Key West, Florida. A young boy named Eugene was given this doll and he named him Robert. Everything was good until the doll started to act super strange one night. On this night, Eugene woke up and looked at his bedside, and scary enough, the doll was facing and staring right into his eyes. Eugene's mother heard the boy scream, but as she was running to the room, she heard furniture banging all across the room. When she finally got into the room, it was completely wrangled up with Robert the Doll sitting on the edge of the bed. They then decided to lock Robert into the attic, but at night they would hear Robert's footsteps above them. Then when Eugene passed away, Robert the Doll claimed the life of a 10-year-old girl, and the girl's parents reported that the daughter would complain about hearing the doll at night and seeing it walk.
Halfway at number 5, Death Bridge. The Sunshine Skyway Bridge was a modern beauty when it opened in 1954. The bridge spans the mouth of Tampa Bay, connecting St. Petersburg on the north side with Bradenton on the south. But due to its height, it's also been an infamous spot for jumpers taking their own lives over the years. More than 200 people over the decade, according to some reports. Drivers on the bridge have also reported seeing a beautiful blonde hitchhiker on the bridge. When they pick her up, she begins to cry as the car approaches the top of the span. When the driver turns around to ask what's wrong, the woman has vanished. In 1980, the bridge was struck by a cargo ship, collapsing the central span and taking the lives of 36 people.
At a number 4 spot, we have the Pensacola Lighthouse. Legend says that a couple known for having constant fights owned the property. After a decade of living there, the lady randomly decided to take her husband's life, but she wasn't done yet. She proceeded to chop his body up in over 1,000 pieces and bury the pieces all around the lighthouse. The lighthouse's property also served as a place to treat Civil War soldiers, and many have passed away at the property as well. Visitors of the lighthouse claim to hear footsteps when no one else is there, and hearing their names being called throughout the whole building. Now the site is being controlled by the United States Coast Guard, and they even allowed ghost hunters to investigate the area in an episode. Season 5, episode 5, if you guys are wondering.
Now at number 3, Sunland Hospital. Have you ever heard of Sunland Hospital in Orlando? It served as a tuberculosis hospital and later evolved into a training center for children with special needs. The facility closed after allegations of abuse and neglect and health code violations. The main patient building was turned into a park, and reports claim that ghostly patients still hang around. Park visitors reported hearing children's laughter when no children were around, and strange lights. Some also claim swings and other playground equipment moved by themselves. Apparently, after being torn down in 1999, all of that remains of the Sunland facility is the old administration building. There was a Sunland Hospital in Tallahassee too, but the location closed in the 80s after reports of experiments and an apparent lawsuit filed claiming abuse occurred at the hospital. The state of Florida then closed all Sunland facilities in 1983.
Two spot, we have the Bloody Bucket Bridge. Yeah, sounds really nice. During the time of the Civil War, an African-American couple moved and settled in Wauchula, Florida. The woman worked as a midwife and she was pretty content with her situation. As time passed by, the wife started to act unstable, and it was all due to the memory of her own child being stripped from her life during the Civil War. Haunted by the event, she took it on her own to suffocate babies as they were being born, and what's worse is that she told the parents it was a stillbirth. Then it said that she would take the remains of the baby to her husband, who would help grind them up and place them in a bucket. Later, she would take these buckets to the bridge and dump them into the water, hence the Bloody Bucket Bridge. People claim that if you visit the bridge on a full moon night, the water will appear red in color, looking like the blood of the baby she took.
Now taking our number one spot, Devil's Tree. Inside Port St. Lucie's Oak Hammock Park sits an old oak tree that locals say is evil, or more accurately, that something evil occurred there and it still haunts the land. In 1971, before the park was established, Gerard Schaefer, an ex-deputy for the Broward County Sheriff's Office, assaulted and took the lives of two 19-year-old girls, Paulette Goodenough and Barbara Ann Wilcox, then buried them beneath an old oak tree. He was then arrested for homicide and stabbed till he passed away in prison in 1995. The girls have been missing since January 8th, 1973, but their bodies weren't discovered until 1977, when two fishermen noticed bones protruding from the ground. Local legends and ghost stories about the area include claims of blood-curdling screams erupting from the surrounding woods, ghostly apparitions, and camera malfunctions near the Devil's Tree. Police have responded to numerous calls claiming devil worshippers in hooded robes were performing rituals there. In 1993, the local pastor conducted an exorcism and put up a cross at the site. Numerous efforts to cut the tree down failed when chainsaws malfunctioned or axes broke.
At number 10 spot, we have Alti the Sea Monster. In southeastern Georgia along the 137-mile-long Altamaha River, some say a gigantic sea monster is lurking in the depths, with reports dating back all the way to the 1800s. Alti, or by its original name Altamaha, is a river sea monster that was first discovered by Captain Delano of the schooner Eagle. He described the creature being 7 feet long with a circumference the size of a barrel and a head resembling that of an alligator. Reports of the creature started to amass, with every description describing it as a 20 to 30 feet long sturgeon-like fish, but in my opinion this thing just looks like a distant relative to the Loch Ness Monster. Do you see it? Other reports claim that the creature was over 60 feet long as well. Over the years there are many sightings of Alti, and they remain consistent in their descriptions. Then more recently, a video of Jeff Warren shared an identified creature that could resemble Alti, but you guys be the judge of that one. At our number 9 spot, we have Winecoff Hotel. After its completion in 1912, it was renowned as being a fireproof building due to its steel construction. It is located in the heart of downtown Atlanta. It was grand, it was modern at the time, but for some reason the hotel only had one staircase, which turned out to be a huge fatal mistake later on. Then on December 7, 1946, a fire engulfed the entire hotel, which also happened to be the most deadliest hotel fire in US history, killing a total of 119 people. The fire started on the 3rd floor, which only meant that everyone from the 3rd to 15th floor had no way of escaping the building because of the one staircase. While some managed to jump out of their windows into the nets firemen were holding, the majority of people would be leaping to their death. The hotel has since been rebuilt, but much of the charred past remains inside of the building. At a number 8 spot, we have the Weeping Statue of Gracie. This statue is located in Bonaventure Cemetery, which was established all the way back in 1846. Although the cemetery contains many different beautiful statues, the statue of Gracie is the one that sticks out to almost all visitors. Gracie Watson was born in 1882 and grew up in the Pulaski House Hotel that her parents WJ and Frances Watson ran. Unfortunately, when Gracie was only 7 years old, she contracted pneumonia and passed away on April 22nd, 1889. So in honor of her untimely death, a beautiful statue of her sitting was built. Now Nowadays, many guests leave offerings and gifts such as toys, flowers, and knives gifts for her, but when people try to steal these gifts, she will cry tears of blood. And some have even said her statue comes alive at night, with visitors seeing an empty seat on her statue. At our number 7 spot, we have the Georgia Guidestones. This is considered as America's version of Stonehenge, and you can probably see why. Not only are they both large creations with stone, but they are both shrouded in complete mystery and speculation. The Georgia Guidestones were erected in the 1980s by an anonymous man under the name of Robert C. Christian. This astronomically aligned monument is made up of a solid granite, with each of the slabs weighing around 20 tons. Written on these stones are 8 different languages, which include Arabic, Chinese, English, Hebrew, Hindi, Russian, Spanish, and Swahili. The reason it was built in the first place was to prepare humanity for a plan just in case of an upcoming apocalypse. One of the things that was noted on this was to keep humanity under the population of 500 million people, to keep us in perpetual balance with nature. With the population of 7 billion, I can see why this is kind of scary to look at. You can pause the video now if you want to see the whole entire list. However, some believe this monument has ties with the Illuminati or the New World Order, and on July 6th of the same year, the monument was completely destroyed by an explosion by an unknown individual, who could also be tied to these organizations, who knows. At number 6 spot, we have Patriots Inn. This hotel in Augusta, Georgia was built all the way back in 1816, starting off as a simple 2-story home. As the time went on, the building underwent new expansions and eventually was able to house enough people to become a hotel. The haunting story of the hotel was about a lady named Emily. She was extremely excited for a wedding and was awaiting her husband, who was arriving at the inn by horseback. Except when a knock came on her door, it wasn't her husband, but the news that he was mistaken for a soldier charged with treason and was shot to death on the spot. Her hopes of getting married and having a happy life ended immediately. She would wear her wedding gown for months and would eventually pass away brokenhearted. Now guests claim that she is still waiting for her fiancé at the hotel. They report seeing her walk up and down the staircase and pacing through the hallways in her own wedding gown. Right in the hump of our list, we have the Crybaby Bridge. I've done a Crybaby Bridge in my past videos, but I'm pretty sure there's one in every single state. Have a bridge and have a crying baby and boom, Crybaby Bridge. This bridge in Columbus, Georgia was created back in the 1800s. At the time, a poor farmer family in the area was expecting their 5th child. Knowing they couldn't afford to care for another child, the family arranged for the doctor to dispose of the baby right after birth. Now here is where it gets kind of dark. Instead of finding a humane way to deal with the baby, the doctor had more malicious intents, and he took the baby to this bridge and dropped it into the water below. Now that's the story, but people say if you drive to this bridge on a cloudless night with a full moon, and if you sprinkle baby powder on your car, you'll be able to hear the baby crying below the bridge. And some say that you can see baby footprints in the baby powder that you put. At number 4 spot, we have the Concord Creech Bridge. This rooftop bridge is located in the town of Smyrna. It was built in 1872, and since then some haunted deaths occurred in, outside, under, and beside this bridge. Nowhere is safe. It's said that the waterheads haunt the forest and below the bridge. They are the children who were used for human experimentation and left to pass away by this bridge. Many other children were taken here only to meet their end as well. Now it's said that if you park on the bridge, turn off your car lights, and leave a Snickers bar on your car, you'll hear quiet footsteps approaching your car, and soon after the Snicker bars will be removed from the car. All the way at a number 3 spot, we have the statue of Corinne Lawton. Aside from the weeping statue of Gracie, the Bonaventure Cemetery also has the famous statue of Corinne Elliott Lawton. She was the daughter of the well-to-do brigade general in the Civil War, Alexander Robert Lawton. Legend goes that she wanted to marry someone who was in a lower social class, so because of this, the father denied it and forced her to marry one of the most wealthiest men in all of Savannah. When she met him, she told the father she couldn't do it, but the wedding was still forced. On the day of the wedding, she was angry and heartbroken and took herself to the banks of the river and proceeded to drown herself. The odd thing about her statue is that it's facing away from her family's tomb, which many people say is a way to show that she went against her family's will even after death. Many paranormal investigators have attempted to speak to Corinne over the years with some compelling evidence, so go search it up on YouTube if you want. At our number 2 spot, we have Lake Lanier. Couldn't mention Georgia without Lake Lanier because most of the people in the state know everything there needs to know about this infamous lake and the town that surrounds it. Some people come to this lake mostly to have a good time, but others in Georgia choose to stay far away from this body of water because this is where many drownings and boat accidents occur. And since its creation back in 1956, the lake has claimed the lives of over 700 people, which just makes this lake a cemetery in my opinion. Many blame the ancestral ghosts in the area. This is because many forget that the town around the lake was named Oscarville, which was home to over 1,000 African African Americans who wanted to escape racial inequality. However, in 1912, a young white woman named May Crow was found dead in the woods, and many blamed it on these two young black men. This caused an enraged mob to drive the whole black community out of the town, with houses burning down and some people passing away. Now this could explain all the restless ghosts in the area. This was a terrible event in US history, and it's no surprise this place is haunted. At number 1 spot, we have the old governor's mansion. Located in Milledgeville, this estate was built in 1840 after a fire burned down the original Capitol building in 1931. And more famously, the President of the Confederate States of America, Jefferson Davis, was laid to state there, which is a tradition in which the body of a deceased official is placed in a state building. Now, over the years, visitors report smelling burnt cigars, keys jingling when no one's around, broken glass, a woman's screams, and books falling from the 3rd floor. When paranormal investigators checked out the place, they claimed the most activity was in the mansion's library, which is the same place where many guests asked the workers if something happened in the library in the past, because when they walked through it, they claimed to sense a presence watching them. At our number 10 spot, we have the Devil's Tramping Ground. Located in the dense forest of the Harper Crossroad area in Bear Creek, North Carolina, lies a camping ground known as the Devil's Tramping Ground. And I know, the name alone should tell you all about the place, because in local lore, they suggest this is the location where the devil, quote, tramps. And this has caused a small circle of area to become lifeless and never have the ability to grow anything. Locals have tried to revive the area by planting various seeds and also using fertilizers, but nothing seems to be able to fully grow within this circle of land. Some historians believe this was also an ancient meeting place for local Native American tribes. They would come here to do ceremonial dances and other festivals. But in the 1930s, newspapers were hit with the news that a beast was guarding these grounds. The story read, quote, "Coon and possum hunters and their dogs have been on more than one occasion chased from the vicinity of the Devil's Tramping Ground by a ferocious beast said to resemble a black bear." At a number 9 spot, we have Dana Auditorium. Located in Greensboro, North Carolina is Guilford College. This place was built all the way back in 1837, so it went through countless waves of students. Most of the places in the college are completely normal, but in the 1960s, the Dana Auditorium was constructed, and it housed the Guilford College Music Department. However, they failed to realize the history of the grounds they built on. Across the street from the campus are graves of men dating back to the 18th century who passed away during the Revolutionary War. And many believe that the location where the Dana Auditorium stands is the same location of the hospital used to take care of these soldiers, and where many ended up passing away. Many students and staff members recall feelings of cold spots and the feeling of being grabbed by something they just can't see. Others report a soldier wearing clothing from the 18th century, and they say it's a soldier who passed away at the former hospital, but he's not harmful. Instead, he just acts as a protector of the area. At number 8 spot, we have the Ship of Fire. Off the coast of Ocracoke Island, it's said that on the night of the new moon each September, you are able to spot a ghostly ship that appears out of nowhere, engulfed in flames, and it slowly goes closer and closer to land before completely vanishing out of thin air. The legend goes that this was the ship of the Palatines. These were a group of German Protestants who originally left England back in the day. As they were on the boat, they pretended to be poor and hide their golds and coins and other extremities from the corrupt captain and his crew. And this is the part when they messed up, because when they began to see the shores of North America, they just started to celebrate, showing all their valuables in a rush to get off of the land. The captain and his crew began to see the amount of wealth their passengers had and decided to postpone the docking and wait till the next day. So during the night, the captain and his crew proceeded to murder every Palatine on board, which included all sorts of ages. Then they left on small boats and they torched the entire ship behind. At number 7 spot, we have the vampire beast of Bladenboro. During the 1950s, something was going out and leaving behind a lot of dead dogs around the woods of Bladen County. Eventually, news outlets would begin to report a creature that is so strong that it's just going out and attacking everything in sight. This animal was reported to be draining the blood of neighborhood animals, 8 dogs, a family of kittens, and at least 1 lamb. Early eyewitnesses report that the beast was around 100 pounds, and many thought it was just another wolf or mountain lion. However, it wasn't until the beast attacked its first and only human. The next day, the police chief said the town of 790 people was as quiet as he's ever known it. Eventually, everyone was strapped up and were ready to kill whatever beast that was out there on a killing spree. However, the beast seemed to have vanished from the town. At number 6 spot, we have Lake Norman. You guys are gonna get sick of this, but I guess there's literally a version of the Loch Ness Monster in every single state of the US. North Carolina's version is Normie.
We can't kill a normie.
Lake Norman is the largest man-made body of fresh water in the state, and ever since, it's been under heavy speculation of what lies underneath the depths. For example, prior to the year 2000, there weren't many reports of alligators, but nowadays it seems like yet they're native to the lake. So that brings up the question, what else became native to Lake Norman? Many people believe the answer to that question is a beast closely resembling the Loch Ness Monster. It's a long serpentine creature with scaly fins, and it's been reported to chase fast boats and even bump into water skiers and swimmers. On one occasion, a professional scuba diver encountered this creature and said it bit off one of his flippers clean off. However, others believe it could just be a mutant fish because this is a man-made lake. Who knows? It could be from all the pollution. In the hub of our list, we have the Balsam Mountain Inn. Located in Balsam, North Carolina, is a wooden hotel now known as the Grand Old Lady Hotel. But for the context of everything supernatural, we're just gonna call it by its original name, the Balsam Mountain Inn. This hotel was built all the way back in 1908 by two brothers-in-laws, Joseph Kenny and Walter Christie, in hopes to expand their business. While other hotels in the area were failing to start, the Balsam Mountain Inn was in a very good area, so they had plenty of business. By the late 1980s, the entire hotel was emptied out, however, as all things must come to an end. Then in December of 2017, a business person by the name of Marzina bought the hotel, but her first warnings were from the former owners and staff claiming that it was haunted. Marzina decided to report her own findings, and after sleeping in one of the rooms, she claimed to have been woken up in the middle of the night and have her blanket taken off of her. At number 4 spot, we have Brown Mountain Lights. In Pisgah National Forest is the Brown Mountain, and many visitors and locals have reported a series of ghost lights or orbs that pop out of nowhere. According to Cherokee history, a significant battle between the Cherokee and the Catawba Indians took place at Brown Mountain around the year 1200 AD. The unexplained lights are thought to be the result of Indian maidens still looking for their husbands who perished in the battle. These lights can be seen in many different colors, including white, red, yellow, orange, and even blue. On top of that, the lights have been inspected by the US government 3 times, numerous times by private companies, and frequently by the Appalachian University students. And no one has been able to give a proper explanation to this. And to this day, these lights will always be a mystery. So the best way to find out about them is just to go and check them out for yourself. At number 3 spot, we have the Highland Hospital. Located in Asheville, North Carolina is the infamous Highland Hospital. It was built in 1904 by Dr. Robert S. Carroll, and it became a mental institution to take care of those who had nervous diseases. As the years went by, the hospital would decay from the inside out. In 1948, a fire engulfed a section of the hospital, causing the deaths of American novelist and painter Zelda Fitzgerald along with 8 other patients. For those who don't know, Zelda Fitzgerald was the wife of F. Scott Fitzgerald, who is the one who wrote The Great Gatsby. And she was in the hospital because she had to undergo an electroshock therapy but got trapped due to this fire. Nowadays, the place is a recovery home for teens and young adults, but many of the residents and workers claim to see the spirit of Zelda. She can be seen walking through the halls, and others even report talking to Zelda, but much of that conversation is a whole lot of confusion, and she ends up vanishing by the end of it. At number 2 spot, with the Biltmore Estate. Originally built to be a vacation home for George Washington Vanderbilt, the Biltmore Estate was a grand mansion that happened to be the largest home in the country at the time. Several past guests and even employees have related tales of hearing a voice continually speaking the name George in the hallways. It is believed that Edith Vanderbilt herself, who is thought to be another spirit that is said to also reside in the mansion, is walking the halls and maybe looking for her husband. Some of the groundskeepers who worked that night had overheard party-like conversations, glass clinking, and laughter. However, the only issue is that nobody is hosting any sort of party during these times. The family never had a pet, but visitors claim to see a headless orange cat walking out in the garden and usually shows up before bad luck strikes a person. The area around the estate is pretty haunted as well because back in the day, many hangings were done and these spirits are still trapped in the area. At number 1 spot, we have the Helen's Bridge. In Asheville, North Carolina is one of the coolest looking, but also one of the scariest bridges in America. You guys can be the judge of that by the end of this point. It's been said that Helen's Bridge has been haunted for nearly 100 years since its construction in 1909. The bridge was created in order to have a roadway connecting a mansion to the rest of Asheville, but it just made sense at the time, right? So how did the bridge get its name? Story goes that a single woman named Helen lived in Asheville with her infant daughter. One day while cooking, a large fire engulfed the entire home, causing her to rush out of it, leaving her daughter behind. The entire house would end up burning down, and after she received news of her daughter's passing, she just completely broke down mentally. Then one day, Helen decided to take a walk to the nearby woods, and before coming across this bridge to the mansion, she hung herself on one of the steel posts. People who have driven to the bridge have recalled dealing with car trouble despite no prior symptoms. Issues like drained batteries, engine stalling, and other mechanical issues were said to have been reported. To start off our list at number 10, we have the Bunny Man Bridge. In 1904, not far from this bridge, in Fairfax Station, Virginia, was a mental asylum. Nearby residents didn't like the fact that the mental patients were near their new homes, so they had it shut down. While the patients of the asylums were being transported, their bus crashed, and all were found except for one, by the name of Douglas Griffin, who disappeared to the nearby woods. After this disappearance, dead bunnies would be littered all over the forest floors and trees with attempts to consume them. And then finally, on Halloween night, Douglas Griffin struck and killed a group of teenagers that were hanging out near the bridge. He then proceeded to gut and hang all of them as if they were bunnies he had hunted. A police report soon came in about a man in all white with a bunny mask throwing a hatchet at a car, which would eventually give way to this urban legend. Stealing our number 9 spot, we have the Ferry State Plantation House. With 11 spirits calling the Ferry State Plantation House their home, Haunted House seems a fair title for this site. Now used as a museum and educational center, the house also offers Halloween tours called the Stroll of Lost Souls, and is a regular site for ghost hunters and paranormal activity groups. The story goes that this house was used originally as a school, tavern, and eventually a mansion. Once the mansion had burned down in 1828, it was reconstructed by abused and mistreated slaves. The house's many spirits included the woman in white, who fell from the stairs, and the slave named Sally Walk, who is said to be still grieving for her late fiance. But the most famous is Grace Sherwood, who is named the Witch of Pungo. She was in fact the last person convicted of witchcraft in Virginia, having to spend 7 years in jail and later being released. When she had passed away, reports say that her body disappeared without a trace, leaving many people to believe that she was truly a witch. Here at our number 8 spot, we have the ghost of Sarah Henry. Patrick Henry, an American patriot who coined the famous term, "Give me liberty or give me death," lived at Scotchtown with his wife Sarah and their 6 children. Everything was normal and fine until Sarah gave birth to their 6 children. Following that, she would show signs of mental illness, and at this time, mental illness was not a defined term and would often be associated with the devil instead. Henry decided to keep his wife hidden in the basement of his home, hidden from the public to protect his family's image, with people often saying that she was possessed by a demon. As time passed, Sarah would become more violent, eventually having to be in a straitjacket. And after her death in 1775, she was buried in an unmarked grave. It's said to this day, a woman in a long white gown appears in and around the house, just standing there, showing that maybe Sarah was not ready to leave her home, even when her family did. Coming in at number 7, we have the Poorhouse Road Tunnel. This tunnel was built in the early 1900s as part of the railway in Virginia that ran between Staunton and Lexington. It didn't take long for the tunnel to acquire a tragic reputation though. The story goes about 2 young girls playing in a nearby woods when all of a sudden a stranger had approached them, appearing friendly at first, but quickly turned sinister and decided to execute both girls. Now it's said that the voices of these girls cry from the darkness of the tunnel, and once you begin to walk through, you may begin to hear the whispers from the girls. Some other haunted reports include the appearance of handprints on cars, fog appearing in photographs when it is not visible, and the sound of disembodied voices. Guess you can say it's a poor choice to travel to Poorhouse Road. Straight out of a Twilight movie, at number 6 we have the Richmond Vampire. However, this is not your ordinary vampire. The story goes that in 1925, the Churchill train tunnel collapsed with workers still inside. Now, the tragedy of that is very real, but surprisingly in the wreckage, a bloody man appeared with jagged teeth and skin hanging off his bones. Everyone had thought it was just a mere survivor of the incident, but here is where it gets weirder. As they got closer to the man quickly jumped and ran away to the nearby Hollywood Cemetery and disappeared into a mausoleum within. They say the vampire still inhabits the cemetery grounds, which has led many satanic and cult groups to visit and attempt to summon the vampire once again. At the middle of our list, we have St. Albans Sanatorium. Before St. Albans was a sanatorium, it was the site of the Draper's Meadow Massacre. Shawnee Indians beheaded, tomahawked, and even bashed in the skulls of the settlers in the 1700s, and took the survivors back with them to their village. Then, During the Civil War, the area was bombarded by artillery during the Battle of Cloyd's Mountain. People claim to see the smoke and hear the sounds of the artillery fire from the Civil War. Once it became a sanatorium, patients suffered inhumane experimental treatments that left some disabled for life due to its controversial treatment and care. The combination of the bloody history of the land along with the misery within the sanatorium created a perfect storm of paranormal activity, which is why St. Albans Sanatorium is considered to be one of the most haunted places in Virginia. Coming in at number 4, we have the Martha Washington Inn. The mansion was built in 1832 and functioned as an all-female college. But when the Civil War was happening, the college was used by the young women to nurse the injured. During this time, there's a story of one of the nurses who played her violin to one of the wounded soldiers. She sat by his bedside all the time, and eventually, they would fall in love. Unfortunately, the soldier succumbed to his injuries and passed away. The nurse was completely devastated upon hearing the news, and in a few weeks, the woman would follow him in death. It was reported that the music of the violin continues to play in the room of the wounded soldier. This site is now a hotel and a spa, but I don't know how relaxed I could be with its dark history of ghosts. With the number 3 spot, we have the lovely Lover's Leap. Before Europeans settled in Virginia, there was a Shawnee brave and a Cherokee girl who met in the forest. There was rising tensions between their two tribes. This was like a version of Romeo and Juliet. These two would meet in secret because of the restrictions placed from each of the tribes. But one day, the man visited the spot where they would always meet, which was situated near Duffield, Virginia, on the scenic cliffs. But this time was different. The woman was on the edge, ready to jump, saying that she wouldn't be able to see each other ever again. With that being said, the man decided that the only way they could be together was to kiss and jump off the cliff together. Now, people who visit the area say that they've seen the shadowy figures of a couple on the edge of the cliff, while some say they feel the strong urge to jump off when they come with their significant other. Taking our number 2 spot, we have the Crawford Road. Crawford Road is one of the most haunted roads in Virginia. One of the stories tells of a group of friends that were cruising late at night until they decided to turn up the fun by going down Crawford Road. While driving down the road, they joked, laughed, and sang songs from their brand new CD. Everything had been fine until they had reached the bridge. The track they were listening to on the CD let out a high-pitched, obnoxious screeching sound. The noise lasted for about 10 seconds until they were far enough from the bridge. Then the noise stopped and the CD played as normal. Another incident involved a wedding that took place in the area. The bride was not a happy one and regretted all of her actions, which led her to hang herself by the bridge. As people drove down this road, they would report seeing this woman in a white wedding gown standing on top of the bridge only to jump off and disappear. Now, taking our top spot in our top 10 scary Virginia urban legends, we have the Battle of Cold Harbor. Said to be one of the most haunted battlefields in the United States, it was here that over 150,000 men fought a long, gruesome war, which claimed the lives of over 15,000 men. As the war finished, it was reported that the lack of medical assistance led to dugouts being crammed with both the living and the dead, and those who passed away couldn't even get proper burials. The conditions of the battlefield made this place a living hell for those who had to fight in it, and now it's reported that those who visit experience paranormal occurrences, such as smelling the distinct scent of burned gunpowder or a fog that would appear and disappear in the area, which could be resembling the thick gun smoke from the past battle. Other reports hear the cries and the screams of the dying soldiers waiting for someone to bury them properly. Restless souls are scattered throughout the park, which is why it makes sense that people get an overwhelming sense of sorrow and fear when they walk on that field. We appreciate you making it this far, and we hope that this list of our top 10 scary Virginia urban legends doesn't completely stop you from visiting and exploring this beautiful state. At a number 10 spot, we have Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. Hidden away in Princeton, West Virginia is the abandoned Lake Shawnee Amusement Park. When you look at photos of this place, it's hard to believe that this place isn't haunted. And in addition, the history of this place will confirm that belief. The park opened its doors in 1926 and was a great place to do all sorts of activities since it featured a swimming lake, racetrack, and concession stands, and even cabins for people to stay overnight. However, after 30 years after its opening, in the 1950s, there was a fatal accident within the park that caused concern all over the the state. They say a young girl got crushed by a delivery truck when she was sitting on the swing ride. And around that same time, a young boy lost his life after he drowned in the swimming pool. The park ended up closing temporarily in 1967 due to a failed health inspection, but in 1987 it was reopened by a former employee of the park. However, a year later they would uncover various Native American remains on the property, with a total of 13 skeletons of young children. Ever since, the park has been the hotspot of paranormal investigators and even Satanists, just because of the amount of paranormal activity inside of this park alone. At number 9 spot, we have Greenbrier Ghost. The Greenbrier Ghost story is very real and is the only case in the US when a ghost testimony convicted a real murderer. Story goes that there was once a lady named Zona who fell in love with a man named Trout Shoe. He was everything she would have wished for. He was charming, handsome, and even funny. However, in only a couple of months, Zona got sick and was bound to her home for weeks. However, one day, one of Trout's nephews decided to help Zona out at the home, but instead he found Zona's lifeless body. So he decided to call the doctor, but the doctor would look over her death and just diagnose it as death by childbirth. Now, here's where it gets kind of weird. When Zona was buried, her mother started to see full-blown apparitions of her appear right in front of her, and they would tell her that Trout Shoe was the one who murdered her. And in July 1897, the mother testified this in court, and this actually led to Trout's arrest, where he would be convicted of first-degree murder. Could this really be the first case of a ghost testimony working in court, or was this just a mere coincidence? Let me know in the comment section below. At number 8 spot, we have the White Things. West Virginia has legends of a wolf-like creature that attacks brutally, however leaves no mark, howls, but it sounds like the screams of a person being murdered, and they run, but at speeds no one can even match. These are the White Things of West Virginia, otherwise known as the Devil Dog or Sheep Squatch. Out of all the sightings, the one that stands out the most is that of coal miner Frank Kazul. Back in 1929, he reported seeing the beast as he was walking home in Fairmont through the woods on Morgan's Ridge. Ever since that moment, the word spread quickly about these beasts that were lurking in the darkness of the night and the side of the mountains. In Cherokee mythology, the appearance of these white animals foreshadows a premature death in an individual, meaning that once a person sees the dogs, they are marked for death in the next few days to a week. So this would explain why searching for this beast was completely useless. At number 7 spot, we have the West Virginia Penitentiary. Opening in 1876, the West Virginia Penitentiary in the town of Moundsville is the final place many criminals saw before they're executed. This is because during its 119 years of being active, approximately 1,000 men passed away here. These range from homicides within the jail and various forms of other executions. One spirit that can be found at the penitentiary is known as R.D. Wall, or inmate number 44670. He was a snitch in the prison, and in October 1929, 3 men ambushed him and butchered him into pieces using dull shivs. Ever since, his spirit is said to haunt the basement of the prison because this is where the tragic accident took place. Other than that, you have to realize that there are countless other tortured souls here, so it's not uncommon to hear strange screams and other noises echo throughout the cell blocks. Other legends of the place claim that the prison was built directly on top of Native American burial grounds, but regardless, it's already terrifying enough. At a number 6 spot, we have Spring Hill Cemetery. Located in Charleston, West Virginia is Spring Hill Cemetery, which overlooks the city and the river nearby. It was first established as an official cemetery in 1869, but it has gravestones dating all the way back to the 1700s, when Charleston had its first early settlers. In total, it is about 33,000 burials, which is 33,000 reasons why not to disturb the spirits that rest here. This place is known for their various tree species. However, many of these trees were used to take lives, such as lynchings and others taking their own lives. So combine the hundreds of unmarked graves and lynchings, and you have yourself a haunted place. Specifically in Potter's Field in the cemetery, you can find a large oak tree which there have been hundreds of hangings on, and if you come here at night, you may hear the sounds of choking and suffocating around this tree. In the top of our list, we have Hotel Morgan. Established in 1925 in Morgantown, West Virginia is Hotel Morgan. And this hotel screams luxury with its beautiful rooms, modern gym, and its expansive dining areas. Despite its undeniable beauty, Hotel Morgan is claimed by many to be very haunted as well. The room that is said to be the most haunted in the hotel is room 314. It's believed that a young girl drowned in the bathtub here in the early days of the hotel, and after that, every guest of room 314 has reported some strange occurrence during their overnight stay. Notorious guests of the hotel include Eleanor Roosevelt and Harry S. Truman, and during both their stays, they have recalled things they couldn't even explain. At number 4 spot, we have the Heyman House. Located in Sutton, Braxton County, West Virginia, is the Heyman House, and is believed by many to be the most haunted house in the entire state. Built in 1894 by William Heyman, this house is a very historic place in the state with its rich interior craftsmanship and rare decorative materials. However, going through more recent owners and visitors, the locals claim that there are more than a few spirits living in the home. During the time Heyman lived at the house, he suffered the passing of his 8-year-old daughter and another one of his family members who died from strangulation. Visitors claim that the mirror in the foyer is guarded by a gray-haired woman, while the second floor is haunted by a woman in white. Others have seen a young girl running, which many believed is Heyman's 8-year-old granddaughter, but the only way to find out is to take a tour of this place yourself. Number 3, we have the Mothman. This creature is known worldwide, but did you know they originate in the state of West Virginia? Cause Ohio seems like the place this type of creature would come from, right? The first ever recorded sighting of the Mothman took place on November 12, 1966 in Clendenin, West Virginia. Here, 5 men were preparing a grave in the cemetery when they encountered something they had never seen before. They said a brown-winged creature lifted off from the nearby trees, and they also said it was not a bird, but more so like a humanoid. Ever since its initial sighting, places around the world start to have their own versions of the Mothman. If you ever want to catch a glimpse of one, your best bet is the old West Virginia Ordnance Works, which is known to locals as TNT area. Here, another sighting would occur as 2 young couples would spot a large winged creature that was about 7 feet tall. They would also claim that the creature traveled at speeds at around 100 kilometers an hour. And ever since, the creature was known to be spotted where bad luck was bound to happen. But regardless, many don't even know if it truly exists. What do you guys think? At number 2 spot, we have Sweet Springs Resort. Located in Gap Mills, West Virginia, is the now abandoned Sweet Springs Resort. And let me tell you, there's nothing sweet about this place anymore. It was created in 1792, and since its opening, it would be recognized for having a popular spa and hot springs. However, other places in this resort are not recognized for their good. For example, the old pool house in the resort served as a Civil War soldiers' barracks, tuberculosis sanatorium, and a nursing home. So best believe there are more than a few deaths at this resort. Nowadays, it's a paranormal investigator's paradise because after allowing tours to enter this place, many come out realizing that this resort is still infested with spirits. Many of them had doors closed on their fingers or even been pushed off of stairs, which just shows how unwelcome people are to this place. Yet, they still offer tours, and if you just sign a quick waiver, you and 18 others can stay inside of the resort for just one night. At number 1 spot, we have Weston State Hospital. This facility located in West Virginia was constructed during the time of the Civil War, and it was intended to keep about 250 patients, but ultimately held more than 2,400, including the notorious Charles Manson for a brief period. This place was far from good as numerous peoples were shackled to objects, lobotomized with ice picks, and subjected to terrible maltreatment in addition to extreme congestion, which only contributed to the hundreds of fatalities and palpable sense of agony inside of this place. There are many apparitions, including Ruth, the patient who is still insane and enjoys attacking people. In addition, there are uniformed army ghosts roaming the asylum's halls because it served as a temporary military base during the Civil War. Numerous people have reported hearing voices telling them to leave as well. And even Ghost Adventures crew investigated the asylum and came out saying, quote, a recipe for trapped souls. So visit and you may see why.
Kicking it off at number 10, Ghost of Stowe Lake. San Francisco's Golden Gate Park is home to one of the city's most famous ghosts. Stowe Lake is said to be haunted by the spirit of a woman who, after attempting to save her child, who fell in the water, drowned in the lake. Legend says that this woman, referred to as the White Lady, wanders the edges of Stowe Lake as she searches for her child. She can even be summoned by visitors. It's said that the most active area surrounding the lake is near the Pioneer Woman and Children's statue. Ghost seekers can summon the woman by calling out, White Lady, I have your baby, 3 times. If she believes you, the woman will appear before you and will ask for her baby back. The legend bewars both skeptics and believers from doing this, because if you tell her you have her baby, the woman will haunt you for the rest of your life. If you tell the woman you don't have her baby after summoning her, legend says she will drag you into Stowe Lake and you will suffer the same fate she did in the lake. Now at number 9, the Dark Watchers. This legend takes place in the Santa Lucia Mountains, which run from Avila Beach to Monterey. The Dark Watchers are said to be giant phantoms that resemble humans and lurk inside the mountain. Legend goes that the Dark Watchers can only be seen at midnight, as they stand at the mountain's tops. They've only been claimed to be seen staring out into the wide space below the mountains, before completely vanishing into thin air. Coming in at number 8, monster of Elizabeth Lake. Elizabeth Lake in California is said to have an evil presence below the water's surface. Elizabeth Lake is just outside Lancaster in LA. It's said to have been created by the devil himself to keep his hellish pets. The urban legend says that the passageway to hell can be found if you swim deep into the lake. The first sighting of the monster of Elizabeth Lake dates back to 1880. The monster is said to have the neck of a giraffe, head of a bulldog, bat wings, estimated to be about 50 feet long, and smells of decay. Sightings of the monster of Elizabeth Lake continue to be reported and strike fear in the locals. Here at number 7, the hauntings of Turnbull Canyon. In the Puente Hills Preserve near Witter Turnbull Canyon is a popular hiking site in the preserve. It was previously referred to as Harakanuga? Sorry if I pronounced that wrong, which translates to the place of the devil. According to the legend, the region is haunted by the Indians who were executed for not converting to Catholicism. Their spirits are believed to be lingering inside the depths of the canyon, waiting to get out. Many years later, Turnbull became the site of numerous satanic rituals held by people who mysteriously disappeared. What was left behind from the rituals were paranormal sightings and occurrences, reported by both locals and freaked out hikers. Taking number 6, the Billywhack Monster. Rumors of an alleged beast have been going on around since the 1940s at the site of the former Billywhack Dairy in Ventura County. August Rubel, a German national living in the United States during World War II, owned the dairy. It was rumored that August had a secret underground lab beneath the dairy, where he was working with the US government to build a super soldier for war. He returned to Germany in 1943 as he was supposedly working for the Allies. During the trip, August allegedly stepped on a German landmine and passed away. Years later, reports of a strange creature roaming the area where the now abandoned dairy stood started to surface. Many of these reports came from local high school students who told police that a large humanoid with goat-like horns and sharp claws was hurling rocks at their car. Halfway at number 5, Alcatraz Demon. San Francisco's Alcatraz Island has plenty of ghosts and disturbing rumors about its former inmates, one of which is the Alcatraz Demon. The story is that a prisoner was ranting about a demon in his cell. The guards ignored his cries, knowing that many of the prisoners were mentally ill and prone to seeing things. The next morning, the prisoner was found strangled in his cell, with no evidence or means that someone else had been in or out of the cell. There were also a lot of other ghost stories surrounding Alcatraz. Here at number 4, the Hollywood Sign Spirit. This is probably one of the most infamous urban legends in California. The Hollywood sign is said to be haunted by the early 1900s actress Peg Entwistle. When a possible career-ending review was published about one of her films, Peg climbed to the top of the sign's H and jumped off of it. She is said to haunt the sign and the surrounding area. The legend continues to state that she will appear to people hiking to the off-limits part of the sign where she had taken her life. Instead of the sweet Hollywood actress, what appears to these unfortunate people is a woman with a skeletal face and deep hollowed-out eyes. If those hikers are alone, she is said to somehow influence them to share her same fate. Now at number 3, Ghost Hills. Basic laws of gravity state that what goes up must come down. While in California, there are spots that are rumored to defy this basic truth. If you park at the base of a hill in a specified location and release your parking brake, your car will roll uphill. These spots are hard to find but are often accompanied by a legend as its explanation. A school bus broke down and the kids jumped out to push it up the hill, but lost control and the bus ran over them, taking their lives. Now they push cars up hills as ghosts. Here at number 2, Zodiac Killer. The Zodiac Killer is a serial killer who operated in Northern California in late 1960s. The Zodiac Killer took the lives of 5 known victims in the San Francisco Bay Area between December 1968 and October 1969, operating in rural, urban, and suburban settings. 2 of his attempted victims fortunately did survive. The Zodiac himself, however, claimed to have taken the lives of 37 victims, and he has been linked to several other cold cases, some in Southern California or outside the state. The Zodiac made the name for himself in a series of taunting letters and cards that he mailed to regional newspapers, threatening execution sprees and bombings if they were not printed. Some of the letters included cryptograms or ciphers, in which the Zodiac claimed that he was collecting his victims as slaves for the afterlife. Of the 4 ciphers he produced, 2 remain unsolved, and only 1 was cracked in 2020. The Zodiac stopped written communications around 1974. The unusual nature of this case led to the international interest that is sustained throughout the years. The case also still remains open in the city of Vallejo, as well as in Napa County and Solano County. The California Department of Justice has maintained an open case file on the Zodiac since 1969. Although in late 2021, a team of specialists who investigate cold cases say they identified the Zodiac killer as Gary Francis Post, who passed away in 2018. The team's years of digging uncovered new forensic evidence and photos from his darkroom. One image features a scar on the forehead of Gary's that matches a scar on the sketch of the Zodiac. It's insane that he stopped communication in 1974 and passed away in 2018, but they only identified him last year. Coming in at number 1, the Charman. The Charman's origin story is quite gruesome. A father and son were both caught in a house fire and horribly burnt in 1948. After the fire, the son became so mentally unstable that he executed his father. When the police found the son, he was so unrecognizably burnt, they didn't realize he was alive. So he ran away before they were able to arrest him for what he did to his father. The story goes that ever since then, the Charman can be spotted wandering the woods surrounding Ojai, occasionally approaching tents of innocent campers or pretending to be a hitchhiker and then attempting to attack them.
Coming in at our number 10 spot, we have the 13 Steps to Hell. Built in 1901, the Maltby Cemetery in Woodinville, Washington is said to be one of the go-to cemeteries if you want to experience some sort of supernatural activity. The most famous legend about the cemetery is the story of the 13 Steps to Hell. And I know how that sounds. The stairs appeared to lead nowhere and descended into the ground as they are located in the center of a cemetery. They allegedly led to an underground family tomb. Even though you were only a few feet away, it was said that when you went down the stairs, you abruptly lost your ability to hear anything above you. It is said that if you turn around and face the bottom of the stairs, you could catch a glimpse of hell itself. Local lore claims that occasionally people would descend down these stairs and just never come back. Even though the steps were removed many years ago, there are still stories concerning them. At number 9 spot, we have the Caddy of Cadborough Bay. Wait, did you think we could escape the Loch Ness Monster? Cause we really can't. There's one in every single state, and for Washington, they have the Cadborosaurus, nicknamed the Caddy. It is said to be a 20-foot long serpent creature that inhabits the northern part of the west coast. It's described as having the head of a horse and the body of a very large eel. Eyewitnesses reports have been coming in for the past 200 years with 300 different sightings. Even the Inuit people drew this creature on their canoes in hopes they would ward it off once they entered into the water. As with all these Loch Ness Monster hypes, many people claim to have found and captured it, but eventually it gets to the point when you can't even tell what's real and what's fake. At number 8 spot, we're the Black Cat of Stevens Hall. Built in 1895 in Pullman, Washington, the Stevens Hall was once praised as the quote, most famous attractive building on the campus. But once people stepped foot inside, they took back these claims. Kinda like when you meet someone who is physically attractive, but has a terrible personality. This is that place. It started as a hangout spot for students at Washington State University, and here they would dance, drink, and tell stories to one another. One famous story told at the hall was Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. It was read on Halloween every single year until one year the students believed the story had come to life. Eventually, many would see sightings of a black cat inside of the Stevens Hall. Then on one Halloween, the black cat stood in front of the house's mother's door, and when the students opened the door to see what the black cat was hiding, they found that a girl had passed away, and many believed it was caused by this black cat. At a number 7 spot, we have the Iron Goat Trail. In 1893, a railroad was constructed across the Cascades of Washington. This would be great news because it would finally mean that Seattle would be connected with the Midwest and many other states. Except once trains started to use this railroad, they ran into many problems. To begin with, trains with engines on each end had to struggle up switchbacks to reach the summit. And the worst part about this place was that since it was in the mountains, snow could reach up to 25 feet high in some places, which would have hundreds of people digging out the snow in order for the train to go through. Then in February 1920, the deadliest avalanche in American history hit the railroad. It derailed trails and killing a total of 96 people in the process. And at the time, the rescue mission was nearly impossible due to the extreme weather conditions present on the mountain. Now many hikers come across the area where the accident occurred, and many find themselves leaving immediately the moment they get there. This is because some hikers have reported hearing noticeable screams coming from the tunnels, while others have spotted the apparitions of men screaming screaming for help. All of these components make this place one of Washington State's most haunted places. At number 6 spot, we have Port Townsend, Washington. Considered to be one of America's most haunted cities, Port Townsend definitely has a dark history to back up that claim. The thing about this place is that paranormal activity isn't in a single building or two, but they say that the spirits roam freely around the town, and there's not a place in town where you won't have the chance to see a ghost. For example, the Manresa Castle located in the city was once visited by ghost adventurers, and they supposedly captured children's laughter on film, as well as feeling as though something or someone was pressing against them the whole time. Then we have the Palace Hotel, which used to be known as the Palace of Suites due to the woman who used to live there, but many visitors claim these women never left. They say a woman in blue exposes herself to guests and staff members while the other spirits try to play pranks on the other people. In the hump of our list, we have the Maury Island incident. Weeks before the infamous Roswell accident, Red Chrisman and Harold Dahl had their own encounter that shocked many people at the time. It all started on June 24, 1947, when pilot Kenneth Arnold claimed to see a string of 9 shiny unidentified flying objects traveling around 1,200 miles per hour near Mount Rainier. Many people have said they have seen the UFOs flying as well. Eventually, the story would be relayed to Red Chrisman and Harold Dahl, who both claimed to have fragments from the supposed UFO. When they interviewed Harold, he would go on to say, quote, "On June 21st, 1947, in the afternoon around 2 o'clock, I was patrolling the east bay of Maury Island. I, as captain, was steering my patrol boat close to the shore of the bay of Maury Island. On board were 2 crewmen, my 50-year-old son, and his dog. As I looked up from the wheel of my boat, I noticed 6 very large donut-shaped aircraft. Eventually, the FBI started to investigate and stated this incident was a hoax. But who knows? This really wouldn't be the last time the US government was hiding UFOs. At number 4, we have the infamous Bigfoot. Yes, the hairy creature had to make its way onto this list simply because this is the state where it was first documented and popularized. To this day, this is the state where the most sightings are recorded, so it's either everyone is lying in Washington or they may actually have a Bigfoot in their woods. Bigfoot has gained worldwide attention, but for those who don't know, they're basically 7 to 8 feet tall hairy humanoids with extreme strength. To this day, the search for Bigfoot is still a mystery, and there hasn't been solid evidence to prove the general public that these beasts actually exist. But hey, if you live in Washington, you have the best chance of actually discovering one, but that outcome would probably be a lot more different than you would think. At number 3 spot, we have Tacoma Old City Hall. Serving as City Hall in the early 20th century, this 10-story clock tower is haunted by a single prankster ghost named Gus. Many don't know the origins of this ghost, but it was said that he may have been a former criminal that was held in the building's Old City Jail and even passed away there. So as I mentioned, this building served as City Hall until 1957. This was a time when the City Hall was being neglected, no maintenance, and no payments. So eventually the building was too unsafe to work in, causing everyone to be kicked out. Nowadays, visitors of the old City Hall claim that prankster ghosts have taken over the entire building. For example, Gus is known to toss objects in the air at random. He's also known to turn on lights on and off, and sometimes he would completely shatter light bulbs. At one point, the sightings were so frequent, the police believed it was a person trespassing the property. But after further investigation, it was discovered that no one was trespassing the property. At a number 2 spot, we have the Kells Irish Pub. Considered to be a family-friendly bar/restaurant, the Kells Irish Restaurant and Pub is said to be one of the most haunted eateries in the entire nation. To start, the pub is located in the Butterworth building, which was a former mortuary. So you kind of know where this story is going. This would basically mean that the entire building was used to store deceased bodies. Throughout the years, many spirituals have been brought to the Butterworth building in an attempt to initiate meaningful communication with the alleged spirits who remain there, including both a Catholic priest and a voodoo priestess. Nowadays, visitors report sightings of a ghost of a young girl dressed in a scarlet velvet dress. Others have spotted the ghost of an older man named Charlie, who would appear at random throughout the entire building. At number 1 spot, we have Mount Baker Theater. Opening up in 1927, the Mount Baker Theater in Bellingham was haunted from day one. Unidentified sounds, chilly spots, strange disembodied voices, balls of light, and even the odd apparition are just a few of the stories that have been noted here. As well, many visitors have reported the ghost of a young woman named Judy. It's said that she has crushes on male visitors and will choose to usher them into their seats if she does have a crush on them. People know it's Judy when they begin to hear their name across the floor and feel as though someone is touching them on the back or their shoulders. Another spirit trapped in this place is a cat that is found in the basement of the theater. Many claim that whenever they go to the basement and they catch a glimpse of this cat, something bad is bound to happen, as with many other black cat theories. Oddly enough, Mount Baker Theater keeps a ghost light on stage during the off hours, claiming that they ward off the evil ones from the theater, but who really knows if it works like they say they do. At number 10 spot, we have the Haunted Igloo Hotel. Located in Cantwell, Alaska, is one of the most unique hotels you'll ever see. However, can we call it a hotel if it's never officially been opened up to people? I guess not. Well, sometime in the 1970s, a man named Leon Smith began the construction of this building. His original plan was to make it a never-before-seen hotel, but over the years, it never managed to open due to various code violations. For example, they had undersized windows, which didn't even meet the requirement of the state. And in the end, the building was too big to demolish, so it just stood there for the next 4 decades. Now, apart from this hotel looking pretty eerie, what makes it so scary? Well, because this is an area notorious for grizzly bear attacks, and many have been reported in the area surrounding the hotel. But what makes many stray far, far away is that some have said they saw a woman in white who haunts the ruins. She can be seen looking out of the windows and sometimes by the entrance. At number 9 spot, with the Baggage Towers. Before you arrive in Whittier, Alaska, you must go through a long, narrow tunnel, and when you get out, the place already has this creepy atmosphere. However, as you drive down this town, one building may stand out to you, and that's the Baggage Towers. At one point, this building held the entire population of the city, all while being used for other public facilities such as stores and even churches. They eventually gave it the nickname, the town under one roof, and it just makes sense. With everyone in the town being under the same roof, it was bound to happen that some restless spirits stayed in the building as well. And at one point, residents of the building reported a strange, dark, shadowy figure walking and even crawling around the hallways late at night. In the rooms, they would hear strange voices coming from dark places telling them just to come closer. And one notorious spirit that most residents know is the man that could be heard whistling across the building. Now locals claim that it's even worse when snowfall hits because it just forces them to stay trapped inside of this supposed haunted building. At number 8 spot, we have Badarka Road. Many say this road exists while others claim it was completely made up, but what could be true is the terrifying stories attached to this road. Apparently located in Chudjik is a road known to be haunted by a man and his young daughter. This is all because they lost their lives on this road and have never been put to rest. Story goes that a man and his 5-year-old daughter decided to drive down this stretch of road in order to gather firewood for their cabin that was nearby. When they stopped, the father grabbed his axe and proceeded to chop down a tree. When he was on to his next tree, he wanted a small break, so he kept his axe lodged into the tree. However, when he turned his back, his daughter wanted to impress him and she took out the axe, which caused the entire tree to fall on top of her, killing her instantly. The father was so distraught and just sat there with her lifeless body until he passed away from hypothermia. Now, if you happen to find this road and drive down it around 3 a.m., you may catch the father holding his bloody daughter asking for a ride. At number 7 spot, we have Chased by a UFO. On November 17th, 1986, Japan Airlines cargo flight 1628 was making a trip from Paris all the way to Narita, which is really close by to Tokyo, Japan. It was a pretty normal flight until they made it over eastern Alaska. This is when the crew began to spot 2 unidentified flying objects close by to their left side. They described the aircrafts having 2 rectangular arrays, which is probably their thrusters. And when these aircrafts got too close, the pilots of the Japan flight noted that they could feel the heat on their face. One of the aircrafts appeared to be twice the size of the cargo flight, and they said it kind of looked like a mothership of some sort. The pilots tried to do evasive maneuvers in order to avoid these UFOs, but they still continued their pursuit for little under an hour. Once the 2 aircrafts left the plane alone, a third one came out of nowhere and began to trail them. The pilots decided to contact air traffic control to identify the aircraft, but nothing could be distinguished. After the end of the 3-month investigation, they concluded that there wasn't enough material for proof, although they'd accepted the descriptions that the crew had left them. So this still remains unsolved, but who knows what the crew actually saw. At number 6 spot, we have Scary Mary. One of the most famous legends told to many Alaskans is the story of Scary Mary. The story begins in the height of the Klondike Gold Rush, which occurred between 1896 to 1899. One day, a young beautiful woman named Mary came to the Golden North Hotel in Skagway with her fiance. They loved each other, and by the first day in the hotel, they had already made plans to marry one another. So the fiance decided to go off and get a fortune in the gold fields. However, as time went by, the man never ended up returning. Throughout this whole time, Mary was patiently waiting for his arrival back at the hotel. but at one point she decided to lock herself in the room, knowing her fiance was probably never going to return. After another week, the hotel keepers decided to break down her door, only to find her deceased body while wearing a wedding dress that was meant for her wedding day. Now visitors tell us that she hasn't ever checked out at the hotel. People walking outside claim to see a pale figure wearing a wedding dress looking outside of the windows, while others claim to see her on the ceilings looking down at them when they're sleeping. In the hump of our list, we have the Eldred Rock Lighthouse. Right off of Alaska's coastline is a small island notorious for the disasters that happened around it. This is the Eldred Rock Lighthouse in Haines area, Alaska. The lighthouse stood strong for over 100 years, but it has been haunted ever since its construction. During the 1896 gold rush, many steamboats were bringing gold miners across the body of water that surrounds the lighthouse, and unfortunately, many of these ships didn't survive the journey. The most famous wreck was during February 1898, when the steamship named the Clara Nevada hit the rock with as many as 75 lives being lost. Ever since that disaster, the island has been haunted by the souls of the Clara Nevada. All the lighthouse keepers report the feeling of being watched when they go out on a nighttime walk, and some have even claimed to see shadowy figures peeking out of the water near the coastlines. At number 4 spot, we have University of Alaska Poltergeist. The University of Alaska's Wendy William Auditorium seems to be a notorious place on campus for having a few of their own poltergeists. One of these being John Wendell Wendy Williamson himself. He was a former music professor who used to teach at the school, and students and staff members nowadays claim his spirit still lives in the room, since a lot of overnight staff will catch music being played in the auditorium only to find out that no one is in the whole hall. Psychics and other paranormal investigators have gone to the auditorium and said there are 5 other entities inside. These include a shadowy man seen in the backstage, an aggressive man who picks on brunettes, a teenage guy who is very welcoming, and a white lady who used to be a former student, and alongside a little girl that can be heard giggling during the lectures. Just imagine, you pay thousands of dollars to go to school only to be haunted by a family of ghosts. At number 3 spot, we have the Qualupalik. The legend of the Qualupalik comes from the Inuit people and their icy Arctic waters. They're actually somewhat considered mermaids, but unlike any other regular mermaid, there is nothing attractive about this creature. These creatures are often depicted as having fins that jut out of their heads, backs and arms, and their webbed feet and hands are topped with long sharp claws. All of this is enough to strike tears into the hearts of the children that the Qualupalik preys upon. Only these children will catch a glimpse of their face, which resembles a woman's face that has turned green and bloated from rotting and being under the sea for a long time. Those who have sighted this creature report that they can only be seen for an instant before they are completely gone, but the children victims of this creature would not be so lucky. Their ways of killing involve leaping out of the water, sinking their sharp claws into your flesh, and dragging you into the water to drown you. At number 2 spot, we have the Alaskan Triangle. We all know about Bermuda's Devil Triangle that consumes ships and planes alike, but Alaska has their very own as well. The triangle connects from Alaska's largest city of Anchorage to Juneau in the southeast and Barrow in the north. Similar to Bermuda's Triangle, over the past 50 years, over 20,000 people and several planes have gone missing in this area. The mystery of the disappearance is inconclusive, but many of the surrounding indigenous tribes claim that restless demons and trickster spirits lure people to an icy death. Some say there's even a shape-shifting demon called the Kushtaka that inhabits the forest of the Alaskan Triangle. He is described to approach those who are lost or weak, and once your trust grows with them, they will drag you deeper and deeper into the wilderness and tear you limb for limb, preventing your soul from ever reincarnating. In other words, there's not much to do here other than being lost and potentially encountering this bloodthirsty creature. All the way at our number 1 spot with the Iliamna Lake Monster. Lake Iliamna is located in a very remote region of southwest Alaska, and when I say remote, I mean it, because in order to get to this lake, you must either go by boat or one of those float planes. It also happens to be the largest lake in Alaska and the second largest in the entire US, so best believe this large body of water has more than a few creatures lurking its depths. Native stories speak about a large aquatic creature that has been the reason for many deaths around the area. Those who have seen the beast have said it ranges from 10 to 30 feet in length with a square-like head. It's so powerful, it's said that it attacks small boats off of blunt force alone, meaning it'll ram its head onto the boat until it completely destroys it. The natives call the creature a Gonagadet, which is depicted as a fish god, or some consider the monster to be a Jig-ik-nak, which are these fish-like monsters that travel in groups to attack canoes and even kill warriors. At a number 10 spot, we have the Night Marchers. According to Hawaiian lore, the Night Marchers were an ancient Hawaiian warriors in their past life, but their spirits march the island carrying torches now. But don't worry worry about hiding from them because you'll definitely hear them well before you see them, as they play a distinctly loud drum while they march. They are believed to be stuck on the island for many different reasons. Some of the claims are they are looking to reclaim rightful territory or avenge a battle they had previously lost. These spirits are not entirely evil, but they do demand respect. For example, if you are unfortunate enough to cross paths with them, try your best not to interrupt. And I'll stress you not to look into their eyes, as you will meet your doom from even one glance from these warriors. Since they are ghosts, nothing can stop them from their path, not even buildings. So when you see them, do exactly this. Or another option is to lie down on the floor, but wouldn't you think that walking away is a better option? No? Anyone? At our number 9 spot, we have Morgan's Corner. This one takes place in the island of Oahu and is one of the most grisly murders on this list. Morgan's Corner got its name from a doctor who happened to live at this particular bend of the road. Then in 1948, it claimed that a couple of prisoners escaped the local prison and broke into a house looking for any sort of supplies. They broke into the home of 68-year-old Therese Wilder, who was below the home of Dr. James Morgan. They gagged her and later took her life by means of suffocation. Even though both of these criminals were caught and sent to jail, many say her screams for help can still be heard to this day. At our number 8 spot, we have Pele or the goddess of volcanoes, or she goes by another name called the woman who devours land, but I think that's a little bit too aggressive. It's said in Hawaii that every time a volcano erupts, it resembles Pele's longing to be with her true love. Her story varies, but the most popular rendition talks about a girl born in Tahiti who was sent away from her father because of her difficult temper and seducing her sister's husband. After leaving, she would encounter her sister once again, who took her life out of pure rage. This is when Pele became a full-fledged god before finding her home on a Hawaii island. Now it's said that if you remove the lava rocks on her island home, you will suffer years and years of bad luck and misfortune. And to this day, thousands of lava rocks are sent back to Hawaii due to people experiencing said bad luck. At number 7 spot, we have the Green Lady of Wahiawa. According to Hawaiian lore, a lady and her child would go to this botanical gardens often. Instead of taking their usual route on the bridge to go home, they decided to take the gulch because she feared of her children being struck by a car, since there was a fair amount of cars on the road at the time. When they took the gulch at night, the complex terrain separated the two, and the woman would end up losing her daughter. She looked everywhere in the ravine, but as nothing popped up, she went to the townsfolk for assistance, but no one wanted to help as it was very late at night. As she went back to look down once again, she ended up going missing as well. Now it's believed that she still roams the gulch covered in moss and vines with a distinct decaying smell, which is the reason why she is considered the Green Lady. She supposedly snatches children she finds in the area to fill the void she had from losing her daughter. And she's also spotted at the local elementary school acting as a mother picking up her own child. At our number 6 spot, we have the Koniana Cave. The Koniana Cave is located at the base of a cliff along the Farrington Highway of Oahu. The cave formed over 150,000 years ago. According to Hawaiian legend, Koniana Cave is home to the underground shark god Nanaue, the son of Komahoali, or the king of sharks, the most sacred brother of the fire goddess Pele. Nanaue was born with a mouth on his back and his mother never fed him meat, but when he was 7 he accidentally ate one and slowly would become this shark-like humanoid with razor-sharp teeth and gills. He had an appetite for human flesh after that and would use his cave as a lair until one of the day a group of villagers came down and hunted him down for good. Now it's said that if you see an elderly Hawaiian man cooking meat near a cave, it's actually the spirit of Nanaue. In the hump of our list we have the faceless ghost of Wale Drive-In Theater. Supposedly at the Wale Drive-In Theater, there is a faceless ghost of a woman who stands near the lady's bathroom combing her hair. When you get too close to her, she will toss her hair to the side to reveal her perfectly featureless face as smooth as polished stone. The drive-in is supposedly haunted by these ghosts because it was built to an old cemetery in Kahala, which has since been torn down and transformed into commercial and residential buildings. Reports of the faceless woman began on May 19, 1959, when the person who first spotted her was hospitalized after a mental breakdown. This would become big in local news and many would come to the theater in hopes to experience this tragedy. After, many women would be found unconscious on the restroom floor who were said to be approached by the faceless woman. At our number 4 spot were the Menehune. These Hawaiian mythical beings are said to be located deep within the forest of the island. These 3-foot tall beings are said to be experts at building, where legends say that they would build temples, fish ponds, roads, and even homes for the Hawaiians. According to lore, if you interrupt them when they are working, they will vanish out of thin air, but in some rare cases they come back to you with only negative intentions. A story goes that a group of teens went on a beach to have a bonfire. When they arrived, they noticed an odd looking shrine, but as they focused more on it, they noticed these little faces and shadows of little people in the forest behind it. Scared by this, the teens decided to find offerings to give to the shrine. One teen came out of the forest with an apple, running, after a group of Menehune started to circle him. All the teens managed to escape, but this incident remained remains a reminder not to mess with these beings. All the way at a number 3 spot, we have the Ilonani Palace. From scary sounds to unexplained apparitions, Inulawi Palace reigns high with paranormal activity. Built in 1882, the meticulously restored palace was once home to Hawaii's last ruling royalty, King Kalakaua, and his sister Queen Lilikuali. She was imprisoned in the palace within her bedroom for 8 months following the overthrow of the Hawaiian monarchy. Although the queen physically passed away in 1917, it's believed that her spirit, along with a few others, are still roaming the halls of the royal home. Visitors on tours and security guards on duty have reported hearing footsteps, smelling the scent of burning cigars, and seeing the silhouette of a woman standing in the window of what was once the queen's bedroom. At number 2 spot, we have the Daniel K. Inouye International Airport. This international airport, located in Honolulu, is considered one of the most haunted airports in all of America, and for good reason. The airport is said to be haunted by the Lady in Waiting, who is a blonde girl who wears a white dress and appears in areas where people aren't allowed. The story goes that a woman fell for a man who pledged to marry her, but at a random turn of events, he took back his promise and vanished out of thin air. After she suspected the man left on a flight, she went to that airport and took her own life in one of the bathrooms. Now it's said that her spirit still remains in the airport, but is more prevalent in the bathrooms, with reports of her slamming the toilet seats and tugging on people's clothes. At the airport is said another ghost who is known for choking guests. It's said that this ghost sits on the chest of others and gives them the sensation of choking. Guess I'm taking a boat on my next Hawaii trip. At a number 1 spot, we have the ghost of Pearl Harbor. The Pearl Harbor incident was known as the reason for America's entry into World War II. This happened on December 7, 1941, when the Japanese led an attack to destroy as many military and civilian vessels in Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. This attack caused the casualties of around 2,400 US personnel, including 68 civilians, and damaged or destroyed 19 US Navy ships, including 8 battleships. It's said that the spirits of those who passed still remain on Pearl Harbor to this day. One of the ghosts that can be spotted on the grounds is the ghost of a man named Charlie. When heavy doors begin to swing back and forth, or lights being flickered on and off, everyone who works there just says, quote, "That's just Charlie," as if it was some casual thing or something. Don't know about you, but I would expect everyone who passed away from this attack to become malevolent ghosts in the future, but I guess this one just got tired of it all. As people approach the shrine built to commemorate the event, many claim to feel the instant feeling of sadness and a pain feeling. With the number 10 spot, we have the Goldfield Hotel. With a population of less than 300 people, this ghost town is bound to have something haunted within it. And guess what? It does. So this town got its name because it was discovered in 1902 because of a gold rush. As with many gold rush towns, when the gold went away, so did the people. Then in 1923, a fire engulfed the entire town, leaving the hotel standing alone. This hotel is now a symbol of what used to be, and many visitors claim that it's haunted by the former townsfolk. One of the most notorious spirits found in the hallways of the hotel is a woman named Elizabeth. Legend has it Elizabeth became pregnant with George Wingfield, which was one of the hotel's first owners' child. When he found out, he chained Elizabeth to a radiator in room 109 of the hotel. He supplied her with food and water until she gave birth. Some say Elizabeth passed away shortly after giving birth, and ever since you can hear a baby and her woman crying from room 109. At number 9 spot, with the Clown Motel. If you have a fear for clowns, this motel is probably the last place you want to sleep at. This hotel has an obvious theme for clowns, and this was because the father of the owner was a clown collector and ended up being buried at the cemetery, which is located right beside this motel. Motel and cemetery, probably not the most appealing combination. Not only does each and every single room have all types of different clown decorations, but past owners and workers have claimed that it was haunted since the time it was built. They would recall hearing footsteps and voices coming from unoccupied rooms. Even on their website, they have different rooms and the spiritual encounters in each and every single one of them. Because of this, they have a disclaimer which reads, quote, "By visiting the Clown Motel, you acknowledge that you may encounter interaction with spiritual and or unexplained phenomena and or other unexplainable, unusual, or paranormal activity or interactions, which may include risk which may or may not be foreseeable. The Clown Motel will not be held liable for any bodily damage, injury, or personal property, emotional distress, death, or other harm caused by aforementioned." Many others have visited this hotel, and many other YouTubers have documented their trip, but you must be a clown to step into this one. Haha, no anyone? No? Okay. At number 8 spot, we have the Lovelock Cave. Located in the middle of Churchill County, the Lovelock Cave is one of those discoveries that makes you question our history a little bit. In 1911, 2 miners were sent to this cave to search for bat guano, which is just bat poop for those who don't know. They would collect loads of this stuff, but eventually as they got deeper into the cave, they began to discover things like baskets, shoes, and even skeletons of humans. The craziest part about this is that it claimed that the skeletons of the humans were giants. I don't mean like 7 feet beings like Shaq, I mean like 10 to 15 tall beings. Local legend claimed that the local Paiute tribe was once at war with cannibalistic giants. The tribe was able to fight them back and trap the giants in this cave. They then filled the cave with deadly smoke to suffocate the rest of the giants in there. Even though bones have not been formally documented, it could be hidden from the public. Who knows? At number 7 spot, we have Tahoe Tessie. On the border of California and Nevada lies the beautiful Lake Tahoe. Legends from the Paiute tribe talk about a serpentine beast who lives in an underwater tunnel beneath that very caves. Then in 1959, a police officer named Mickey Daniels reported that something large rocked his boat while he was fishing with a friend at Lake Tahoe. And it was a cause of concern because his boat was 43 feet long. So something huge must have shaken it up. Except there's no sort of whales in Tahoe, so many claimed it was actually the beast Tessie. They believe Tessie to be around 80 feet long and to be as thick as a telephone pole. Many claim it has relations to the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland, and if you see these two side by side, they honestly look like brothers. Regardless, just be wary of what lies underneath the depths next time you swim at Lake Tahoe. Sometimes the beauty in the area may be deceiving. At number 6 spot, we have Virginia City. So this whole city inside Nevada is considered to be haunted. Yup, a whole city. This place started off as a mining town and was one of Nevada's fastest growing cities, but in 1875 a fire engulfed everything within 9 hours, leaving more than 2,000 structures destroyed, hundreds homeless, and over 300 passed away. Now it's said that the spirits roam the entire town, haunting every single building within it. For example, the old Gold Hill Hotel is said to have the ghosts of children running the halls and scents of rose when spirits are nearby. The Silver Queen Hotel is allegedly haunted by one of the former workers. It's said that her spirit grabs people's hair and attempts to trip them down the stairs. Then in the St. Mary Arts Center, which was built in 1875, the same year of the fire, it's said that they offer paranormal investigations, including seances inside of the building. Right in the hump of our list, we have Bally's Casino and the MGM fire. Let's take a gamble and talk about the infamous fire that claimed the lives of many in the Las Vegas Strip. On November 21, 1980, in the world-renowned MGM Grand, a devastating fire engulfed the place, with it being the second largest loss of life hotel fire in the history of the US, with over 87 people passing away and 700 injured. During the fire, no alarms rang, and to make matters worse, sprinklers weren't even installed in all parts of the building. 8 months after, and the MGM Grand Hotel was rebuilt and reopened to the public. But ever since, visitors claim all sorts of paranormal activity. This includes ghostly apparitions on the same casino floor as the site of the fire, with some reporting that the ghosts are actually still gambling to this day, which is attributed to their last mortal moments before their passing. At number 4 spot, we have Area 51. Couldn't mention Nevada without Area 51. If you haven't been living under a rock, then you must know that this place is a potential alien hotspot. Many people believe this is a place where the government does secret tests with alien technology, and some claim that they keep aliens captive here. The most popular case was from Bob Lazar, who have claimed to work in Area 51 and said that he saw a UFO firsthand, describing it in very specific details. This led many to believe in his theory, and for probably forever, Area 51 will always be associated with alien activity until the US government tells me otherwise. At number 3 spot, we're the Flamingo Hotel. Until this violent murder 6 months after its opening in 1947, the Flamingo Hotel was the pride and joy of notorious mobster Bugsy Siegel. Siegel took over the final phases of construction and convinced more of his underworld associates, such as Meyer Lansky, to invest in the project. Siegel reportedly lost patience with the project's rising costs, and he once mentioned to the builder Del Webb that he personally killed 16 men on the job. However, some claim that he decided to stay indefinitely. Bugsy has allegedly been seen at the Garden Memorial, inside the wedding chapel, and roaming around the presidential suite, which still has the gold bathroom fixtures from his original room. Guests in his suite have reported hearing whispering and seeing dark shadows looming at the foot of their beds. At number 2 spot, with the Mob Museum. At a time, Las Vegas was controlled by the mob, and some believe they still do. So it's no surprise a museum of mob activity was built to recognize some of the horrific acts they committed. All of their exploits are documented at this mob museum, renovated from the same downtown courthouse where many of these characters were prosecuted. As you can imagine, imagine they weren't too happy about their jail sentences, and some say their spirits still roam the halls after hours. The supernatural energy is especially strong near an exhibit dedicated to the St. Valentine's Day Massacre, featuring a brick wall from a parking garage where 7 Chicago gangsters were shot dead in 1929. All the way at a number 1 spot, we have La Plaza Mansion. Although this property is pretty well put together, once you know about its past, you'll definitely look at it differently. It got such a bad rep, it eventually was considered to be Satan's mansion. Built in 1959, this now abandoned building was home to a threatening gangster. Here in this house, he would organize many of his hits. He would also execute others in that home, and he kept many people captive inside of the basement and the attic. So as the years went by, the house claimed more and more lives, eventually to a point when it reeked of the paranormal. Everyone who moved into the La Plaza Mansion reports a presence of negative energy that hangs over everything. And that's just where the haunting begins. If you visit, be prepared to hear whispers saying get out of here or kill her. And sometimes you might have some piece of furniture or decoration thrown at you aggressively.